Incoming transmission.
The Klingonese word of the day is chot.
These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise.
So, this is a huge victory for the good guys.
Scotty, beam me up.
Resistance is futile.
Live long and prosper.
Boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings and welcome to the Computer Resume podcast, the show covering the entire Star Trek franchise in chronological order for fans new and old. I'm your host, writer-comedian Mr. Todd A. Davis. Dungeon master, author, podcaster, and former engineer aboard the aircraft carrier USS Enterprise. And when it comes to Thanksgiving, brings a hell of a gluten-free stuffing. Please welcome back, Michael LeBlanc. Yay! Michael. Hey, buddy.
Hey, man. How you doing? It's good to be back.
Yeah, it's been a long time. We've sort of taken some time for ourselves to heal. And
yes.
In the meantime, what have you been up to in the last better part of a year, maybe even more since your last appearance on the show? What have you been up to?
So work first and foremost. Got to make that paycheck. Got to pay the bills. Right.
Yeah.
I would love that all of my artistic endeavors would allow for that to happen, but you keep chipping away until that happens. Right. But the artistic endeavors include making short form videos, like a daily short form video. Like every morning I try a thing where I don't hold myself to any kind of pattern. It just whatever comes in. I say good morning. I say that I've got to go at the end. Whatever falls in the middle, as long as it's under a minute, I've been doing good. And then I've been writing. Been doing a ton of writing.
Anything you care to share any details about, or are we keeping it close to the chest for now?
So I will share that it is a Star Wars and Star Trek, any kind of star inspired story. Anything that has really come into me has boiled down to a point where I realized I can make my own universe. And 22 years ago, I'm on the USS Enterprise. I'm curled up in the laundry hold. Actually, I have this new binder that I bought with dividers, and I'm scrawling all of these new alien races and planets and time zones and religions. I flushed everything out that I could. When I got out, it sat on a shelf for like 2 or 3 years. And then since then, about every year I get the itch to either add a short story to it, or I have written one short novel that adds a lot of backstory. It's time to write the book. And so I'm getting all of my stuff together. I'm making a wiki so I can keep everything organized.
Nice.
And then I'm writing the book. So we'll see what that looks like. But it's something that I love. It's my own baby. And it's a mix of analog and digital tech. And it's fun, man. It's fun. It's fun in here. And I hope it's fun when he gets on the paper,
That's awesome. They talk about dungeon mastering being sort of a really great training tool for creative people when it comes to world building.
Yeah.
Have you found that to be true as you dive deeper on your own stuff? Have any skills from dungeon mastering, have you found those applicable in your writing or creating content of any kind?
I've never really kind of put the pieces together like this, but when you say it, there is one big thing that kind of ties the two together, and that's improv. There we go. Being able to say the word comes first. No, improv is huge because I didn't start off doing dungeon mastering or game running any games actually until like the end of high school and then going into the military. But before then, I was doing a whole lot of short story writing. And one of the things that I always allowed myself to do, and I thought it was novel at the time, and I still kind of do because not enough people talk about it, is sometimes my characters do something on the page that I wasn't expecting. Like I fully aware it's coming from me, but in the moment I realized that this is the outcome that it should be. This is either more realistic or this is the twist that actually makes a story worth writing. Right. And I think I brought that with me to almost any sessions that I have run to allow myself to have the story. And any good DM will tell you that, the characters that you're playing for, the people who are sitting at the table with you, if they want to, if they want to go on a completely different track, I mean, sure, you could loop it around back to wherever later, but yeah, hell, this is their story. This is what's going to make it good for them. This is their twist.
Yep.
And allow that to happen. So I really feel like that's a huge overlap. It's a huge strength to have.
Yeah, I think, giving your characters flaws and giving them sort of a really strong sense of motivation of what is it I want to do, or what is it that I want to do, what is it that needs to be done, how do I feel about that, and what are the steps we take to get there or avoid. And in making some of those decisions, that's where a lot of that drama comes from, of like that inner turmoil of, I really do need to do this, I really don't want to, but it has to be done. And maybe there's another character that's a sounding board, and and things unfold, and it's a really wonderful way to have that world with your characters unfold. Not to mention, what planet are they on? What are the weather patterns like? What kind of technology do they use? Is it retrofuturism? Is it with a hint of Victorian? Like, how's this all?
It's all in my little black Bible. That it's so, the pages are so threadbare, dude, that I flipped that thing so many times just to make sure that I was like, does this planet even have rain? Like, did I write that at some point? I don't even know. You mentioned what characters have to do and should they do it, and what is that going to mean for the greater overall story. I know for a fact that one of my most beloved characters, I'm getting a little emotional right now thinking about it, one of my favorite characters that I've ever created, they're such a joy to write, because it's like watching a new world unfold in front of a child every time that I write this character.
Wow.
And after years of growing up and realizing and seeing the arm of the universe, it's called the arm, become what it's become, they're going to have to sacrifice themselves. It's the only thing that is going to make sense. And I woke myself up in the middle of the night one time, thinking about that, and I was like, oh, that hurts. That hurts. But that's it's growth. It's growth, damn it. Kill your darlings. Do it.
It's true. Like, I've worked with not only my own creative writings, but my wife has dabbled as well. I work with a lot of comedians and comic book storytellers as well. Having that knowledge that, okay, I love this character, I have to torture them. Like, it really is the only way we get there. They love this thing, I have to take it from them. Or this person in their life they love so much, okay, they're gone.
That's what's happening to this character that I'm talking about. They are the thing that the other main character loves so much, and I've already tortured the other main character. It was a very important part of Act 1, and I'm like, why? What is there a dark side of me? What's so unresolved that I have to do this? And I'm like, no, it's real. You don't get through life completely unscathed. If you do, that's not a story you're sharing with people. That's not the 2:00 story, after everybody else has gone to bed and you and your best friend are just sharing stories. It's not that story. Yeah.
I think, and looking at that, especially, in relation to the episode that we're going to talk about today, understanding more about these characters reveals more about the world that they live in, and not only how unique that world is, but how similar it is to ours. So let's dive into this episode, Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 8, Under the Cloak of War. This is a fantastic episode right off the bat. I mentioned before we started recording that I didn't recall it being so heavy. It is incredibly heavy. And I think probably for anyone who's been at a very coming of age time in their life and seen the beginning of war. But before we kind of get into all of that, tell me about your general thoughts upon watching this episode. If you recall watching it for the first time, how you felt about it. how do you feel about it now, doing the rewatch for today's recording? What are your thoughts on Under the Cloak of War?
So first off, I just want to thank you for bringing me in on another episode that has to do with PTSD. I feel like I'm your go-to guy for that, which again, I gotta want is the darkness within. No, but when I first saw this, I do a lot of my watching on my phone while I'm doing other things, especially while I'm cooking, cleaning, and it's right there in my hand. How effective is it cooking and cleaning? That's not the point. I'm doing both at the same time, and that makes me happy. And I remember, watching this episode, I could tell from the tone of it that it was going to be heavy, already. I mean, they're coming, fresh off of the Klingon War. There's a whole lot of people that you have to consider who were in that, and they bring all that up, and it just sets the story so solidly. And I sat down. I remember sitting down just in the kitchen, and I just pulled up a chair. I was like, all right, we're going to give this thing the attention that it needs. And you're right, it's heavy. As I said, it's like a brick that they just kind of hit you with, is like, this is very important, pay attention. And I did. I again had to give it all my attention.
Yeah. It's one of the things that jumped out to me, and maybe it's because I've recorded these, today's episode so closely with the last episode that was released, where we get a couple lower deckers who joined the USS Enterprise.
That was fun.
Yeah, it's a fun episode. And even, Boimler walking onto the bridge and seeing Ortegas goes,
yeah.
Oh, Lieutenant Ortegas, you're a war hero. And you see his eyes light up. But that to me says you have no idea what it means to be a war hero.
Yeah.
And getting into some of this stuff, I kept thinking about I kept thinking about MASH. And
okay. Yeah.
I kept I was like, God, they could have laid the suicide is painless. They could have laid that underneath this entire episode, and it would have fit perfectly. But we're seeing a lot of the characters who did not serve. And their reactions to things that are going on here. But just surface level, what are a couple of elements that jump out at you?
First off, the sensational actor, the guy who plays M'Benga, I have his name in here, and we'll get to that here in a second, because I don't want to butcher his name. I want to have it in front of me when I say it.
Yep.
But his acting and digging, really laying into what they wanted him to present, the pain and also the decisiveness. It read so well. And then that, and just the overall tension throughout the episode, through a script that really wasn't that word heavy, except for maybe in the beginning and the end. To set up the exposition and then to wrap everything up. And it was just, the dominoes were all there, and you kind of knew where they were going to fall, but you didn't want them to fall the way that they did. And just that tension building in that, it was heavy but enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is tension. God, there's tension from the word go throughout this entire thing. Tension between this Klingon ambassador that visits the ship, and M'Benga. We've got tension. M'Benga and Chapel, because they were both there together. Chapel's got her own tension building, and that tension is causing tension between her and Spock. There's tension between the crew of the Enterprise that served in the war and those that didn't, and some of those folks that didn't are commanding officers. And it's kind of like, you have no idea what's going on here. And it's wild to think, again, and both of us have very unique experiences with you in the military, myself in law enforcement. We saw a lot of things where the brass had either lost touch with what it meant to have boots on the ground. And there was a feeling of, you don't know what's going on here.
I was just having a conversation with a Navy, I wanted to say recruit, that's not the word. I was just having this conversation with a fellow Navy survivor, I guess you could call, because we both had very interesting, intense times in the military. And, you know, there were both veterans that served at different times. We both saw that. So like he brought me into a conversation actually just to tell somebody else what it's like to see some of the people who are above you, who know that they have to command and know that they don't know everything that the people underneath them do. And it's rough to see. It's funny at the time. It's funny now, but it's still rough to see. Like,
Oh, sure. You know, and it's, you know, it can be something as simple as like, you know, the inefficiencies around a detention facility, or something much bigger on a very big ship during a major conflict that has ripple effect circling the planet. Like it's there's a lot going on, and I feel like this is one of those episodes where, you know, Strange New Worlds pretty much right off the bat didn't hold back when it came to commenting on the current state of the world. And while this might not be a comment on the current state of the world when this came out in summer of 2023, I think it definitely rings true for folks of, like I said, certain age that witnessed the beginnings of war. And have thoughts about their country's involvement, good or bad, given whatever war it may be, and the folks that are actually witnessing that now. So I can see that we are both we're both frustrated about beating around the bush about this episode. So I'm
going to get into the meat of this, man.
Yeah, we are both chomping at the bit here. So without further ado, let's get to this week's recap. Brought to you in part by our Patreon supporters: Rev J, Jerry Antimano, Kitty B, Ed Milner, Fleet Admiral First Class Fred Sims, and Wren, Sir Chauncey Dalton Featherstone Waugh III, Esquire, Zitzman Chiropractic, Dawn Ringheiser, and Nate D.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Ambassador, it is my honor to welcome you aboard the USS Enterprise.
Other Klingons call him the Butcher of Jagal.
The Federation believes that everyone deserves a second chance.
No, he's pretending.
Sometimes you pretend something long enough, it becomes the truth.
War doesn't leave you. It can bury itself, but it's always there.
All of us have to remember what we love most. We fight for them, but if we don't fight, we don't win.
Enterprise hosts Ambassador Doc Ra, a Klingon general who defected to the Federation and is said to have killed his own officers when he learned that they had ordered attacks on civilians while fighting on the moon of Jagal.
Okay, that's not good.
Veterans of the Federation Klingon War, including M'Benga, are uncomfortable with his presence. M'Benga served at a field hospital on Jagal and witnessed the brutality of the Klingon forces under Doc Ra's command. Doc Ra invites M'Benga to join his campaign for peace, citing the symbolic power of a partnership between two men who were on opposing sides at Jagal, and offers to help M'Benga find healing from the trauma he experienced.
Yeah, right.
M'Benga rejects Doc Ra's offer and eventually reveals that he knows it was Doc Ra who ordered the attacks on civilians. In fact, it was M'Benga who killed the Klingon officers whose deaths Doc Ra is taking credit for. A fight breaks out, and M'Benga kills Doc Ra with the same dagger he used to kill Doc Ra's officers. M'Benga tells Pike, quote, "I didn't start the fighting, but I'm glad he's dead."
Well, this sucks.
Hello, this is Elizabeth Dennehy from Star Trek The Next Generation and Star Trek Picard, and you are listening to Computer Resume Podcast.
Okay, so we are now officially in spoiler territory. Let's start from the I tell you, you're the guest. Where would you like to start?
All right, so there's I want to start like at the beginning as they're all setting things up, because as I was saying before, the show starts off exposition heavy, then gets into shoehorning to make sure all of the people who need to meet before they start boiling that tension.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things that they did was, first off, I never thought I'd see Raktajino come back.
Yeah.
And they brought it back in Discovery, and it's still there. And I'm like, humans, aliens everywhere. They all need their coffee. They all need their caffeine. And so we really get the story brought along by a cup of Frappuccino that burns this Klingon tan. And I was like, this is writing at its best. I couldn't have done better.
Yeah.
But I mean, and boom, that's it. They're off to the races. Your two opposing literal dark horses in this episode finally meet in the sterile room of the sickbay, man. Like, and you know, when it starts off and Banga, which again, his performance is just great, but he, you know, has himself a little panic attack in his alcove, and they zoom in on that. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a good episode.
Yep.
This is gonna be good.
Yeah, because you know, I had kind of forgotten about that, and when I saw that, I was like, oh, does he have a heart attack? And then remembered, oh yeah, this is a panic attack of the, and he's not a wimp, he's not a wuss. Like,
no,
this is something really hard, really heavy coming back to him very fast,
and you can tell that's learned behavior. Somebody who, there are things that I do when I feel a panic attack coming, and they don't happen very often, but one of the first things I do is, because my heart doesn't start like beating irregularly immediately, so the first thing I do when I feel that surge of irresponsible energy coming on is I check my pulse. So like if so, you know, just let you know, if we're ever like hanging out and we're having just a grand old time, and all of a sudden I just stop and go like this, I'm checking my pulse and telling my brain that no, I'm not dying. And so I recognize that as learned behaviors. Like that's a coping mechanism right there.
Yeah. It's and it's wild to and you know, we are going to talk about a lot of heavy stuff today, but I'm going to take this opportunity to say, with the reveal of Ambassador Doc Ra, sorry, forgot his name for a moment. The makeup on him, the makeup effects on him. We've seen different iterations of Klingons over the years, but this is a really great version of the Klingon makeup that is somewhere between what we saw in early Discovery and what we will eventually see in TNG. You can kind of see that he's progressing evolutionarily from one phase of Klingon to the next.
Yeah, because if anybody knows anything around about Klingon lore, is that they go through some heavy genetic changes in between that they of course wrote to change to explain the difference in why Klingons all of a sudden look that way. Yeah. But for me, it's good lore. It's good sci-fi lore.
We covered it when we covered Enterprise, and I thought they did a great job. I was like, honestly, that all makes sense. Yeah,
not mad at
it. So yeah, let's get back in, and we're seeing, when Doc Ra and Pike and Una, when they go to the bridge, they interrupt Ortegas, giving Uhura an earful of what she really thinks, and then
it's like, oh no, he's standing right behind me, isn't he?
Exactly. He's standing right behind me, isn't he? Damn it. There was and again, the veteran kind of letting someone else know who wasn't there, who doesn't know. This is what it's like. This is what happened. This is what is common knowledge. It's kind of hard to, hats off to Doc Ra for, yes, your ship is very beautiful. Great view.
He took everything with stride.
I mean, took everything with stride.
The appearance of the ambassador side of Doc Ra was, I think, set a good balance to everything that was going to be revealed later. It wasn't shock necessarily. It really set up that moment of understanding of going, so that's why this person is trying to be who they are.
So we get let's jump ahead to the very awkward dinner. And things going down, and Erica said, hey, I can't really keep it together for long when there's somebody I don't like. Hats off to her for hanging on as long as she did.
The fact that she even walked in the room, right? I really, of her walk right before she walked out,
Yeah.
where she was talking about where she kept hearing remain Klingon, but saying it's so much easier to say in our language. And then she repeated it over and over again. The simplicity of that delivery, I was like, okay. I mean, this is you kept it in there longer, and cutlery was starting to fly. Like it was, that was a good buildup.
Yeah, and the tension around that table. We'll give it to Pike, of course. I've not been shy about my love for Anson Mount as Pike. He's incredible here.
Wonderful job.
But Pike noticing the tension and saying, "You know what, Doctor, you should probably head out and double check with them."
Great diffusing of that situation. And him Mbenga just going, "Yep, this is exactly what I needed. Thank you."
To be honest, looking at the situation, I was kind of surprised that so many. I guess it was a dinner of the bridge officers and senior staff.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't, with tensions being so high and there being so many veterans amongst your crew, what group can you invite?
Yeah.
That doesn't have that, but at the same time, having it be worthy of a private dinner with an ambassador.
Yeah.
Because that was the surprising thing, was that Chapel was like, I'm in too. I was like, no, CMO has to go. Like, he's senior officer. He has to go.
I was wondering about that too. I was like, I feel, because, one of the things they said is like, they want to make sure that they bring veterans in, because it's such a good metric to have peace be born out of all of this in front of the veterans who saw all of that carnage and war.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, sure. But in the grand scheme of things, if this was like any other normal function, I don't think they would have invited Nurse Chapel. But you gotta bring the people who are also very much part of the show into it as well. So and that it again is making sure all the people see each other at least once before everything starts to unfold.
Yeah.
And one thing that I want to mention too is we're talking about Mbenga's actor, who is Alusa
Maku.
It trips me up every time, but I wanted to get it right. Do you know why he moves with such a grace that he does?
Yes.
Yeah, I found this out too, because this man actually knows Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that makes so much sense. Like, and the layers that they have given this character from season 1 on, and I've watched everything that they've given me so far, and the layers that they have given that character, who I thought was going to be, I'll be honest with you, a little more two-dimensional than he's turned out to be.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I see it. I see the direction they're going with it. And I'm glad for it. He's one of my favorite complex characters, for another reason that we'll get into when we're talking about the flashbacks.
Yeah, I think if you, and I include myself in this, if you weren't on board and completely sold with Babs's portrayal of Mbenga here, this episode will absolutely sell you.
Yeah.
It's
definitely.
And I may be getting ahead of myself to the is this essential viewing, but yeah, he does such a fantastic job with a turn of his head, with just holding the gaze of somebody else. And speaking very calmly, speaking very directly, making decisions that need to be made, and not dilly-dallying, not holding back.
The dude is speaking in jiu-jitsu. You know what I'm saying? Like, the way that he delivers. It's absolutely
very well said. Yeah.
Yeah. And you could just see it. It just comes out in his character. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. I think, we also get these wonderful flashbacks to the war as it is raging on the moon of Jagal. And we're seeing boots on the ground. This is what a Starfleet frontlines triage would look like. A tent city, and the barest of essentials to patch people up as best they can.
Absolutely.
And we're seeing this is where Chapel and Mbenga meet for the first time. And something stuck out to me And again, this kind of came from last episode where Ortegas is trying to impart the necessity to relax to Uhura. When you get downtime, you take advantage of it because you never know when you're going to get it back. And we see the first we see of Mbenga, his feet are hanging out of a bathtub. I'm like, what's going on? Oh yeah, he's making the most of his time. But when the alarm sounds, he's up and at 'em, and okay, let's get to work. And I think seeing all of that, not only seeing what Mbenga was dealing with, but us going along with Chapel and kind of seeing it also through her eyes is a really great way to understand Mbenga better. But we're also experiencing it along with Chapel, who's no slouch at this point. Like, she's promoted. I mean, odds are the head nurse probably died a horrific death.
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
So she's promoted immediately, but like, she's still brand new, like barely put her bag down, and she's having to get to work. But yeah, we get to see this all play out, and I think it kind of culminates with a Starfleet officer comes in horribly wounded. And they're like, we don't have the stuff to make them better. So what are we going to do? All right, let's put them in the pattern buffer. And I thought of Relics, the TNG episode Relics.
That, and also couldn't help but to think, I was like, so that's where he got it from.
Yeah.
Because he didn't just stop there. And it shows later, it's not just with that person. It is something that he learned once he realized he could do this. He could hold people in perpetuity until he can figure out a problem. I was like, okay.
Yep.
And then he used it for his own daughter, right? I got
his daughter, the Elysian Kingdom, earlier.
Right.
A lot of these episodes, a lot of the scenes that we've had with Mbenga, and I think Elysian Kingdom, I think, is the first sort of Mbenga-centric episode. All of this is kind of culminating with this episode. This is a very important episode, if nothing else, for the character of Mbenga.
Definitely.
And when it comes time to, okay, there's a big influx of officers coming in, what do we got? We have to purge the system. And Chapel sort of stares at the screen, and he just reaches over and hits the button.
Yeah, needs of the few versus the many.
Yeah, she looks at him, says, "What are you doing?" Said, "We save lives." And it's kind of
so good.
It's such a harsh reality to face, but it's kind of like, if you think this is harsh, just wait. They're coming in right now. Like, we're going to have to face a lot of harsh realities.
This is not the worst thing that's going to happen today, right?
Yeah. And it's something that I think a lot of folks who have never been first responders or served in the military or lived with someone who has done that, I think this is a thing that they don't understand and won't understand.
Because it wasn't delivered in a way that romanticized it.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't supposed to be the memorable moment, but if you've ever been in a situation where, you know, war is closer than you think, and you have to see somebody around you make that decision, you know, it's either going to bring back some strong memories, or it's going to make you realize how lucky you were because it didn't get that bad.
Yeah. It's there is someone close to me who is taking steps to get into a particular line of work that I am familiar with. And I'm debating on whether or not to have the discussion of, hey, I still am not okay from my time. You may want to seriously consider something else. But yeah, it's hard to articulate.
It is.
You know, why we end up there, and then how do we survive when the day is done, when we come home. It's a really
a lot of time in any trauma that you go through, whether or not you're realizing exactly how much traumatic experiences are flooding in at that moment Your body's going to process it one way or another. That's for probably a therapist to figure out later. But I don't think there's ever really a time that when people are going through like microtrauma after microtrauma and out of all of this other big stuff where they're sitting, okay, how am I going to feel about this later? They're never thinking like that. And it becomes those scar tissues, that becomes those pain points that result in really surprising behaviors later.
Yeah. And I had somebody who knew me in high school, and I mean, still knows me. But they remember me from high school. And when it came to light that I had served as a police officer, the question they asked was, "Did it mess you up?" And I understand what they were getting at, but I went to answer in the affirmative, nah. And then I stopped and started thinking about it.
So it's so easy to say that.
It's super easy, and that's what they want to hear. They want to hear that I'm a pretty strong person, and like I stopped and thought, and I was like, yeah, it did. It did. I'm still dealing with it. I look at guys like my dad who served in Vietnam. How he is still walking this planet, I don't know. I mean, because even when he came back, mental health was
there's the support.
They had just stopped referring to it as shell shock. Like
yeah, exactly. And speaking of shock, they were still using that as a viable way to treat people who were having out of control mental issues. So You're right. How do they continue on? You gotta wonder what is in their bag of tricks when it comes to coping. Some of it you'll notice, like there's alcoholism. There's certain points of abuse that you will see them either giving themselves or other people, but that's not when they're by themselves. What's in that bag of tricks, and that's something that most people will never know. A therapist might figure that out. I don't know if you know this, but I really enjoyed therapy, and I will talk about it any chance I get. But what people would have gotten through good therapy, how would that have changed like the next generations, going, from Generation X on, what would we have flying cars by now? I don't know the answer to that.
Hey.
But yes.
Yes, we
would.
Looking at, and God, we talk about service members. Look at our politicians. Look at our leadership. And I mean the leadership from the top all the way down. How different would our world be if they took some time once a week to unpack some stuff and just instead of drugs, alcohol, name your vice, your destructive vice that unfortunately a lot of people turn to for comfort or release or both. And it puts things in perspective. I think for certainly for me, I look at the stuff that I've dealt with, am still dealing with, and God, I need to go talk to somebody. I've been dangerously close to pulling the trigger for a while. I will say I'm on a new antidepressant now.
Hey, look at you. Heck yeah, man.
This podcast is brought to you by the benefits of Zoloft.
And then we just play BB No Money's antidepressants, and we just sit here and dance for 15 minutes. It's great. I love that, man. No, you were talking about leadership in general and how their views, what they go through, and if they had actually dealt with it a certain way, or maybe if they had even like close to the same experiences of the people who they're leading, because there's such a divide. Like war is war, but there's a different nuance to it. Like different technologies bring into it, different branches of the military will bring wild differences in between the way that you see war. And going back to the Star Trek show that this podcast is about, number one, I can't remember her name. I can never remember her
Una.
name. Thank you, Una. She wasn't in the trenches and everything like that, but you can tell like she realizes that, I am in a situation where I have to talk to and command these people who are, and so Warren Tagus gets upset and she starts on her, remain Klingon diatribe, you could tell like she's just like, I have to say something.
Yep.
Okay, I said something. Pike, you got to say something too.
Yep, your turn, buddy.
And I've seen that panic before in people when even because my job wasn't like in the trenches. I never held a gun. I never shot at things, but I was responsible for the hot rock that made the water, that made the boat go. And there were people who were sitting on the chairs behind us, and they knew what we were supposed to do, but they didn't know how to do it. And so they knew the words because they had been either on that ship for so long, and they had just gotten jaded, because there was a lot of jaded people on the Enterprise. It was old. There were just some angry people who were there. It just happened. Yeah. But if it was an older brass that was sitting in that chair, you could tell it was just like, all right, you guys got this. I pretty much know what to say if things go wrong, but if things really go wrong and for some reason you got to shut down the reactor because something's going on and everything, I'm trusting on your hands to do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes things went wrong, and sometimes those officers didn't say the right things, and it was up to the enlisted to go, no, we got to hit the switch now. And if I get yelled at it later, it's fine. I'm not letting this thing melt because of you.
Right.
So there's separation there. And I think maybe, I don't know, is it a thing where there maybe they need to talk to the people who are below them more often?
Hey, there's a novel idea.
Yeah, right. Or is it, even just going back and revisiting training as hard as the enlisted had to do? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Thankfully, I'm not necessarily in that situation anymore. It was a different stress. I don't necessarily feel like I have to revisit, like personally, like while I'm there. But I related. It definitely brought up memories of my time in the service.
Yeah. You mentioned training and these things that are, we have to do versus, talking with the folks that could probably give us a little bit better direction. As Mbenga excuses himself from the table, that ambassador grabs his arm, and I know, I was like, oh, that other fist of Mbenga is clenched so tight right now. He wants to deck him so
wound up. Yeah.
But then invites him to train in this martial art that they are doing full contact. And my first thought was, this is a horrible idea.
Ill-conceived at the very best.
Listen, say, hey, look, I'm happy to provide you with materials, and we will give you the recreation space. We've got some of our young ensigns. You can work over every young ensign here. I gotta go.
Yeah, I understand. Again, it was giving Doc Raw a chance to have a character that was showing himself to be balanced, but I think it was doing that in a way that was also showing that he was so high up on the horse that he had lied about for so many years that he thought he was that guy. And it became very apparent by the end of things that he was not that guy, both literally and figuratively.
Yeah. I think back to, honestly, when my mom passed away. I was in such a raw emotional state.
Sure.
That at one point I was like, I'm just going to go to the karate school and work out. Probably one of the top 10 worst decisions I've ever made. To the point of my senior instructor, my master, pulling me aside saying, go home.
Yeah.
Like, I can't have you do this here.
Yeah.
I understand. I know why you're here. You can't do that here. Okay, you got it.
To a less extreme thing, when my mom passed away, the day of, I was calling people just to let them know what it was. At the time I was separated from my wife, so I called her, let her know. I called my brother, and I was like, hey, and I was really calm about it. Then I broke down in the middle of the conversation, just started crying, and just holding the phone. And he was like, so what are you doing right now? I'm ironing my shirt. Gotta go to work in like 2 hours. They need me. And he's like, I'm gonna need you to set that iron down and just listen to me. You're going to call in today. I'm very glad that I had that voice of reason. Otherwise, I would have probably wrecked my car on the way there or something, because I lived on country roads before you get to the town. And it you're not in the best situation when you are when you experience that much loss. And also, if you don't deal with it healthily afterwards, you are still in bad situations. You still have, again, those habits, those weird personality and physical quirks that will come up and make you seem weird to everyone else around you.
Yeah, yeah. Well said. Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow, and trying to jump back into life too quickly, it can be just as detrimental. Like, that's why they take some time. At minimum, take the day.
At least.
At the very least,
put
take
the iron
day.
down. Jesus.
Yeah. Oh,
you don't need
man.
flat shirts right now. You need booze.
Yeah. So we see, it is then revealed that not only has Ambassador Doc Ra been lying, that he fled. So instead of this peace bringing hero, he is a coward.
Yeah.
Amongst Klingons, which is even worse.
It just makes that's the worst kind of coward you can be.
Yeah. And it is revealed that he is not the butcher of Jagal.
No.
M'Benga is.
Yeah, he
and seeing after a discussion with a young officer who probably makes the decision full-heartedly to go back into the fight after getting patched up,
after literally having his heart squeezed by Nurse Chapel, which was
yeah.
After
all that, and he explains, we fight so that the ones we love can be free, can live their life.
Yeah.
And that poor young man doesn't come back. And that's when he grabs the Klingon knife and goes to work.
Becomes the ghost again. Which is a great bit of world building, of lore building.
Oh yeah.
And is it a little heavy-handed that he's also the one that came up with Protocol 12? Maybe, but it kept it close to the story. It was easy to explain.
Yeah.
And it's also just a badass concept, because we all know that we should know that humans going up against pretty much any other race that's not them, they're outmatched by muscles. Like even Vulcans can bring it harder than humans can. So he needs that edge. But the choreograph that they showed, which it wasn't much, it was all reaction shots, and it was static images of the knife with the blood. The blood, by the way, with just a little bit of Klingon hair still stuck to it.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
Great detail.
I'm a sucker for good cinematography, and that show brings it. And so, like, when it flexes its muscles a little bit, I'm like, all right, I see you, and I appreciate that. But the entire thing just leading into it, and it shows that it was actions that he had to do. You see that he regrets it, but I feel like he regrets the losses that he had more than having to become that person again, because he realizes that this is something that had to be done. Yeah, it's still something he fights with.
Yeah.
Of course, there's again, the PTSD was real, but
very. And this idea of, not only is this piece built on a lie, but this piece is built on a horrific bit of violence perpetrated by you, who is now the healer on the flagship. And so shortly after this brief confrontation, camera cuts to Nurse Chapel walking in, and we specifically don't see what happens.
Yeah, the frosted glass paradox.
Yep. So my question to you is, was Doc Ra killed, or was Doc Ra murdered?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, even as the story progresses, and like you sit there and you're kind of watching these people just interact with each other. I don't want to spoil future stories, but you still have that wonder. I'll be honest with you. By the end of the episode, he makes his feelings as plain as he can, saying that, what was it? He's like, I didn't start the fighting, but I'm glad he's dead. And so you're like, did he become the ghost at that point, or was he, the doctor just trying to either way, the result is still the result, and he has to live with it regardless. But
looking at that situation and him and Mbenga trying to break it down for Pike.
Mm-hmm.
I included that quote at the end of the recap for a very specific reason. I didn't start the fighting. I didn't start the fight, or I didn't start the encounter. I didn't start the fighting, specifically the fighting.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's referring to what happened in his office.
Exactly. Yeah. That was one of the things I noticed too. That was layered. It was so layered. It wasn't just about that moment.
Yeah.
Like I felt like he was really just like reaching out. He's like, hold on a second. I've got something in my closet. I didn't do this.
Yeah.
But that was me.
And here's because Mbenga was very adamant about not accepting the mission from that Andorian special Black Ops officer. But then Chapel essentially gives him a mission. Nothing official, nothing in writing. And seeing what transpires, again, to me, says that he was still on the mission. He just hadn't encountered.
That's a good way. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at that.
Yeah, of like
he never really stood down. He was just
just waiting.
Just waiting. Camping out.
Yeah.
Parade rest for a very long time.
Yeah. One of the individuals I took martial arts with for years and years and years became a chiropractor.
Okay.
After his training in chiropractic medicine, he came back to the martial arts school and he hurt people so much more. So I will say, and you can go to any movie or TV show and there's usually a doctor or a scientist marveling at something horrific, and somebody always calls them on it, and they basically give a version of the same thing of like, to understand something, you have to appreciate what a perfect engine it is.
Yeah.
And I think,
well said.
I think Mbenga as a soldier, I think it also worked both ways. Him being a soldier made him a better doctor.
Yeah.
And him being a doctor also made him a better killer.
Which is one of the more interesting ways that I've seen them bring depth to a medical officer.
Yeah.
In fact, I think because they always do a decent job, some better than others, of adding layers to characters who they didn't believe were going to be as deep as they were. Right. Dr. Bashir comes to mind, especially. Yeah. Can't wait till you get to that. I definitely want to be a part of DS9. But this was some of the more, and I guess just because they have the time, they have the time to tell the story the way that they want to. They have the imagery, they have the technology to make it as dark, heavy, or as light and fluffy as they want.
Yeah.
And I think because of of that discretion of them choosing when to really either give you a brick or give you an episode about singing,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know, man. It's why I'm really enjoying, I guess, New Trek as it is. It's
yeah. I think because again, spend a few minutes online, you'll find haters of essentially anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think there's an element of being stuck in the past. And I think this episode is a perfect reason, or is a perfect counterpoint to that, of like, if you let your past dictate your present, then you've already decided your future to some degree.
Good point.
And I think, and again, I don't want to minimize anyone's experiences or traumas or anything along those lines, but it is so dangerous to not deal with your trauma.
Oh, wow, yeah, absolutely.
I don't think there's anybody who's experienced any kind of trauma that would legitimately say, no, I don't need to deal with it. Like,
yeah. Well, and it depends on what they're surrounded by.
Right.
I want to definitely, hate on toxic masculinity because the idea that, men, the feelings that they have should just be, pride in what they've made, and sadness doesn't exist. I'm like, no, man, I can't let, don't get me wrong, having pride in what I made is great, but the sadness is real. I was actually going to talk about when it came to like being in the service and it changing you. And I was going to talk about my change in religion going from Christianity to Buddhism. Well, here's the thing, that as much as that actually did happen to me, I don't think it rings as close to what we've been talking about, and that is actually like recovering from trauma. And one of the things that I haven't talked out loud enough about, I've mentioned, I made a couple of TikToks about it just because I wanted to be, somewhat relatable and whatnot. But it was, part of the reason why I went to therapy in the first place was because I was doing something remarkably silly looking back at it, but it was doing like real harm to me. And when I was having stressful moments, like not even all that bad, I would call it too many plates are spinning. That was the mentality in my head. And maybe it was just 2 plates. It didn't matter if I dropped one. Say I was carrying laundry and I dropped a sock, but also I knew I had something on the stove and it was starting to burn. Well, that's just too much for me. So I would literally hit myself in the face with my fist.
Yeah.
And it took me 4 or 5 times of doing that over a long period of time. It wasn't something that happened every day.
Yeah.
But the 5th time it happened, and I actually felt residual pain in my face because it wasn't like decking myself, but still, this doesn't help. Swinging at yourself doesn't help.
Yeah.
I was like, I got to talk to somebody. And so when I went to therapy, I was like, I brought her everything was wrong with me. I trauma dumped on that poor woman. And she was like, this is why I'm here. You just keep doing this. We will untangle this as we go on.
Yeah.
She's like, it looks like you're not just here for corrective behavioral therapy, CBR. You're also here for trauma recovery.
Yeah.
Because my mom had passed away a few years before then. Dad had just passed away by the time I went there. So and I didn't deal with it at all. Like I said, the mentality I have to iron my shirt and go to work was still very much there, except I was shoehorning it into other things. I was saying, nah, I've got to entertain this new relationship. I still have to work. I'm gonna make videos. I'm gonna be funny. I'm gonna be the jester of my kingdom. That's way better than being the king of my kingdom. All of that was just pushing things to the back. And yeah, burning dinner was actually pretty apropos because that's what was happening. Everything in the back of the stove was just boiling over and burning. It was rough.
Yeah.
So, did I put myself through the kind of trauma of hulking out and killing my enemies in a Conan Barbarian-esque series of flashbacks? No. But it doesn't matter. My brain was still very much reeling from things that I wasn't taking care of. I was having those panic attacks. That's why when people do panic attacks on shows or movies and they're done well,
yeah,
I laud that. I'm like, that should be done. That should be shown, because too many people, they think it's just like hyperventilating in a bag in the corner. No, sometimes it's quiet reflection sitting in a chair. It's thinking all of the fears all at once. It's sometimes thinking nothing at all and you just hear yourself screaming in a voice that's way too quiet. I spend a lot of time thinking about what it actually feels like. So when I see it, I appreciate it. I'm glad people are showing that.
Yeah.
Because people need that depth. Star Trek is that mirror. It always has been, and it's important that they get that shit right.
Yeah. Just to tack on to something you mentioned there at the end, I've said this before. It's certainly not an original thought of mine, but good science fiction, the science fiction that hangs around, has always been a mirror for our society, and I think Star Trek has definitely taken it to the next step of it also being a mirror for ourselves, of really seeing, and not only, and again, we have the benefit of this franchise hanging around for the better part of a century now.
yeah, for better or worse. I mean,
we are seeing ourselves reflected over time, and we can go back and visit what it was like to be, quote unquote, us in the 60s. We can pop in the movies and see what it was like to be us in the 70s. We can jump to the 80s and see what we were up to then. Oh, yeah, let's have a counselor on board. That's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
And then progressing into the 90s, and then 9/11 hits, and we're dealing with Enterprise
Mm-hmm.
there's that fun aspect of exploration, and then the other shoe drops
Yeah.
of
All of a sudden it's rage.
then
It's
we've got some business we got to handle, like, and again, because they don't have the prime directive, we're seeing sort of that unhinged, unchecked rage brought out in the captain. Like, that was the most shocking part of a lot of that, was because that was never a thing on Star Trek. The captain was unflappable.
Yeah.
And here we see Scott Bakula toss a dude into an airlock. And just like, yeah, he'll be good for another 10 seconds. Like, oh my God. But now we're here in New Trek, where not only have we diversified the franchise, there is a Trek for every mood.
Absolutely.
But the diversity in each iteration is the most diverse it's ever been, in front of and behind the camera.
True.
And we are talking about some things that are, again, we have not learned from history, so now we are repeating it, but now there are all these other added layers of social media, worldwide economics, our doubt or our unwavering commitment to religion. You mentioned, your faith was shaken. Like, there are so many things happening now that are adding additional flavor to the things that we are experiencing and having reflected back to us through Star Trek.
Yeah.
Thank God for things like Lower Decks. thank God for things like Starfleet Academy, which we haven't really talked about, and we'll save your thoughts on Starfleet Academy for the after show.
Good idea.
But it's really great to see a Star Trek with hopeful young people.
Yes.
Of like, okay, I have my culture, but I'm also learning to interact with other cultures. I almost feel like Starfleet Academy should be the first thing people watch, as sort of a bridge between Star Wars, which is very coming of age, and Star Trek, which assumes you've done that already.
Yeah.
So, there's so much. I feel like I've gone off and stolen the microphone from you, as it were.
I feel like you like the show. I'm getting that feel.
If I were a betting man, Todd sounds like a fan.
Yeah.
Anything else stick out to you in this episode?
I'm glad I wasn't in the trenches like that. Yeah. That's one of the things that I also got when I looked at this, because I was out there when they pulled Saddam out of his hole. So tensions were high. Things were actually getting bombed. I saw Bahrain after it got bombed. We were literally a wall separated between a place where we were having drinks all night and a war-torn city. Wow. So there was always like an ever-present layer for me. And as much as I realize how privileged that is to have that realization, to even have that have happened to me, I also realized that there were things that I probably didn't process during that time that I learned later how to process, like through humor and stuff like that. So I'm glad I didn't get those full wartime experiences. Instead, again, I was out there. It made me worry about my faith enough to realize Christianity wasn't giving me peace. I needed to find something that was. Yeah. I saw one of my favorite dudes jumped off the side of the ship one time just because he couldn't take the stress, because being a nuke in general is kind of a stressful job. It's constant improvement, and some people just can't do it. They can't swing it. So I saw some results, but nothing like that. So it made me thankful on that. So there is that. So like, I guess through seeing how bad it could be, is you get hello Blue. Yes, please knock over the microphone. But yeah, so seeing that, it made me thankful for where I am, for what I experienced, and again, hoorah for showing the rough times and not shying away from the darker stories just because you think you got to entertain.
Yeah. Absolutely. They do a fantastic job here. Like I said, there's no shortage of praise that we could heap upon this episode.
This is true.
But getting into it as we do, every episode. As much love as we have, we do need to look at a few things more objectively. And as we do every episode, lovingly, we ask the question, who do we blame? This episode was written by Davey Perez, whose last work in the franchise was season 2, episode 4, earlier this season, Among the Lotus Eaters, which we discussed with Star Trek Discovery actor Orville Cummings.
Nice.
Yeah, and this episode was directed by Jeff W. Bird from Brooklyn, New York. He actually got his start with some pretty heavy hitters. His first 3 years in the industry, Bird worked on 2 LL Cool J music videos and 3 Spike Lee films. Like
back when music videos were like movies within themselves.
Yeah. I mean, but honestly, what a hell of a start to a career.
Right.
He's gone on to direct many music videos, TV movies, and theatrical features, as well as episodes of Runaways, Black Lightning, Charmed, and The Flash. In 2022, he directed an episode of Star Trek Discovery, but we're not there yet. So
that's in the future.
That's
time travel right there, buddy.
Yeah, that is in the distant future for sure. And we've got some guest stars. Let's just go ahead and jump right into Ambassador Doc Ra.
Yes.
Played by Robert Wisdom. This guy, what a hell of an actor. Graduated from Columbia University in New York with a degree in history and economics. He appeared in 13 episodes of Prison Break, 4 episodes of Supernatural, 8 episodes of Burn Notice, 2 episodes of Watchmen. That was incredible. 11 episodes of Barry. I love Barry. Yeah. His film credits include Hellraiser Bloodline, Face Off, Mighty Joe Young, Osmosis Jones, and The Dark Knight Rises.
How many of you are there, son? We don't have enough men to stop 12 million people from leaving this island.
No, we don't. But you do.
Why the hell would I try to help you keep your hostages?
If one person crosses this bridge, Gotham gets blown to hell.
Yeah, hell of an actor. What a presence. Like, he fills the screen with his energy. Got that gravitas, that great voice.
Between that and you were talking about the makeup job in general, I feel like they had to really represent that, because he wasn't going to be on a dark, red and black Klingon ship. He was going to be in the stark white light of a Federation flagship vessel. I was like, they're going to have to represent, and he did. And he absolutely did.
Even a shout out to the wardrobe department for dressing him in sort of cooler tones, and sort of they looked more like ceremonial robes, but also robes that had been worn, like well worn. So there was definitely some age
depth
to them.
There.
Definitely a stark contrast to the black and gold worn by Klingons in the original series, and sort of
the creak of leather.
The creak of leather. Definitely a switch up there. And in case you were worried that we weren't going to mention Clint Howard.
Oh, we have to.
Clint Howard as Commander Buck Martinez. He previously
appeared. Call him Buck.
I know, call him Buck. He previously appeared as Muck in Enterprise Season 1, Episode 19, Acquisition, where he played a Ferengi. And he also appeared as an Orion in Discovery Season 1, Episode 15, Will You Take My Hand? Howard has the distinction of being the actor whose appearances span the longest amount of time in the franchise. So he did the Carbonite Maneuver. That was in June of 66. And then he did this episode, which was shot May of 22, for 56 years. That was 56 years between those appearances.
It's a wild span. He was so the original episode. He was on Enterprise as well. And I can't remember what he was on there, but then I was, as soon as it said that he was Ferengi, it's like, oh, I remember him. And because I wouldn't have recognized the face, because they did so many like full facial makeups and throughout Star Trek. Sometimes you just miss them, unless you're Jeffrey Combs, which I can see a Jeffrey Combs coming from a mile away.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, as soon as I saw him, I'm like, I know this guy. I've seen him before. And then of course I found all that. And then I was like, Howard. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I can see it. I can see
Yeah.
it. You're Ron Howard's brother.
Yeah.
All right. And so I learned a lot about him that I didn't already know. And it's just cool to see him because the way that he was speaking, it made me feel like he was writing. It felt like he wrote his own lines, you know, running up a flagpole and see if it quacks. Love that.
Yeah. To be honest, like Clint Howard, yes, brother of legendary film director Ron Howard, who was, of course, Opie Taylor on the Andy Griffith Show and
so
he was
much
in Happy Days and all that. And Robert Wisdom, they're character actors. Like if you dig folks that have that face, that have that voice, and you've seen them in 1,000 things, highly recommend pulling up both of these gentlemen, pull up their IMDb page and just give it a scroll. It is fascinating to see because again, like Dark Knight, I'm a Batman guy. Like I'm a Batman guy going way back. And when I saw Robert Wisdom was in Dark Knight Rises, I was like, wait a minute, where? And he's the military guy going like, you're not getting across this bridge. I was like, oh my God, that's the guy.
I'm a Flash guy, and now I need to know where he was on that, and I need to know if it was before they started losing money. Because the first 2 seasons of the Flash slapped, and I need to know if he was a part of those, and I hope so because those were my favorite ones. But I digress. I could go on a DC tangent for years.
Oh, for sure. Well, Michael, we get to another question that we ask every episode. Is this essential viewing? If somebody is sitting down, I think
go ahead, finish your question.
But if somebody is sitting down and working their way through the franchise for the very first time and they come to this episode of Strange New World, season 2, episode 8, Under the Cloak of War, is this a must-see episode or is this one that they can skip?
Oh my God, yes. Okay, thank you for getting your question out of the way. The answer needed to come out of my face. Yes, because I mean we've mentioned it here. There's depth to a character that I did not think that they were going to give depth to, and then you realize going into the future, as I'm sure you will discuss with other people, there's a reason that this depth is there as well. And it's not just for this. It's not just for this payout. This was great. This was good to see.
Yeah.
But it adds to stories later. It shows what Star Trek can be after you give them like a singing episode or a Lower Decks episode or something like that. And if people didn't realize how real it can get, how much it can make you feel, this is one of those good episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you. You know, one of the things that we were denied as fans coming up with Enterprise was the Romulan War.
That's true.
And so getting the Klingon War, it has been great for narrative, for the narrative basically extending from Discovery all the way to TNG practically. So, but this is a really in-depth look at the ramifications of what that means on a very, very personal level. I always talk about character tracks. If you're following a character track, if you're following the character track of M'Benga, or certainly Chapel, which I feel like a lot of people may not have been following an M'Benga track, but seeing this makes me want to go back and watch all the M'Benga stuff from the beginning of the series.
I'm not gonna lie, that's what I did. That's what I did because after this, I'm sitting there and thinking, is like was this a payoff, an answer to a question that I didn't see before? And
right.
it kind of was. You know, I thought. I'll be honest with you, what they had put him through before, I thought it was just to answer a problem. You know, when he becomes, when him and Chapel kind of become the heroes during that the season opener of season 2. Yeah,
for sure.
And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So this was payoff, and then later on, you realize it's like this was born out of something way before.
Oh yeah, and like going back and watching not only the Broken Circle, which was the beginning of season 2, but watching the Elysian Kingdom and realizing that all of this is contained within a husband and a father, like, and not in addition to CMO, like this dude is. Don't get me wrong, I love Bones McCoy.
I was just about to say this ain't no Bones.
Yeah,
this is much more than a Bones.
Yeah, I love Blazin' Bev. I love Phlox. Like, of course, I love these folks. But I think this episode definitely sets M'Benga in a class of his own,
Mm-hmm.
certainly amongst other CMOs in the franchise.
Yeah.
Maybe of the characters in general. The one character that he can probably relate to is Cisco, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
just for everything that Cisco had to do.
Everything he would raise that glass and do it again.
Raise that glass and do it again. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I'll be honest with you, and the reason that I feel like that we talked about him and his character arc so much and not so much about everybody else's, which don't get me wrong, Chapel was there, but we were seeing the beginning of M'Benga through her eyes. We got to see a little bit of her reaction. There's the side story between her and Spock, and I'm like, okay, all that's great.
Yeah.
Is this guy about to kill somebody?
Yeah. Yeah. And, the other thing that sticks out to me, and then we'll move on here, but looking at Pike, who I've called him the builder. He is the builder of a crew, but he is also the builder of the individuals of this crew.
Sure.
This is the one time where a Pike speech doesn't work.
That's true.
Where M'Benga states it so simply of we've been friends for a long time. We see eye to eye on a lot of things, but you have not lived my life. And it's like, wow. And like Pike, credit where credit's due. He's like, hey, look, we've got systems in play that, there's things we can do. There's, choices we can work. We can work.
Much being the captain he thinks he needs to be at that moment. Yeah.
Yeah. And M'Benga just, summing it up. I didn't start the fighting.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's dead. And that's he could have very easily said, put that in your report and smoke it.
He could have. Yeah. I'll be honest with you, back in the Next Generation, that would have been the last line. Yeah. And then it would have cut to black with blue letters.
Yeah.
That would have been the moment.
Well, Michael, thank you so much, not only for coming and nerding out with me, but sharing your experiences, your thoughts, your feelings, your
always glad
your
to
trauma
with you, buddy.
Yeah. we absolutely love you. Do you have any parting thoughts before we go about the episode, the series, the franchise, another appearance here on the Computer Resume podcast? Any parting thoughts before we go?
Yeah, absolutely. I know you're never going to get to any of the old episodes because they're just going to keep giving us prequels. No, luckily they're focusing on the far future now, so maybe they're actually giving you a break. Maybe me and you can wax poetic about Q or Cisco or Nog, whatever.
Hey, yeah.
But I'm glad I chose this episode because one, I'm impassioned about it, and two, I got a chance to watch Star Trek again after what was kind of a rough day. And I'll be honest with you, that's always a nice thing if you got the time to do it, just to sit there and knock back an episode, even if it is about trauma and war.
Yeah,
it's Star Trek that I wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Yeah. Well, folks, next time we will have a very special guest for a discussion of Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 9, Subspace Rhapsody, which is available wherever you decide to watch Star Trek. Michael, what do you have going on in the world, and where can people find it on the internet and check out those wonderful things and support you and reach you on the internet?
So I did the unhealthy thing and I Googled myself the other day. So it turns out that if you Google @sittin with you, no G, SITTIN with you, you'll see everything. I've got pretty much all short form videos. I'm putting up a few different ones here and there, but pretty much all across the board. I try to do like my big ones just to keep people smiling or to keep people thinking, it's all inclusive, and I welcome everybody. So if you find me out there, know that you can either lurk or join me. I don't care, either one. Also, my book is still out there. Dink, DINQ, D&D in the Coffin Hold of the USS Enterprise, available I'd say Amazon's the link that's working the best right now. Barnes and Noble's being a little weird about it, but that's okay because you get the e-reader, you get the Kindle for like only $4 still. I don't think I'm ever going to change that price. I would love if you like hearing anything about the Navy, if you like anything about D&D, and you think, hey, that can't possibly exist in the same book, you're wrong. It does, and it's out there. Go find it.
Awesome. Hit him with that social media handle one more time.
That is at Sittin' With You, SITTIN with you. Available everywhere.
And I am at Mr. Todd A. Davis on all of the socials. From all of us at the Computer Resume podcast, thank you so much for listening. And I'll see you in 10 Forward.
Please support us on Patreon and like, rate, review, and share on all your favorite platforms. Feel free to send us your subspace transmissions to computerresumepodcast@gmail.com or at Computer Resume on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The Computer Resume podcast was created and produced by Mr. Todd A. Davis. Our logo was designed by Will Martin and Justin Bishop. The opening theme was produced by Justin Bishop, and our outro music was provided with permission by Dronode. Additional music was provided by Mr. Todd A. Davis and Gary Horn, and the voice of Computer Resume podcast and executive producer, me, Kat Davis. Hashtag LLAP. We'll see you next time.
Going through a Star Trek. We're doing Star Trek stuff in space. We probably got some phasers and shuttle pods, and we're gonna find a brand new race.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?